Hi, I'm Harry Carey Jr. This is SCB TV, Channel 20.
The first movies were shot in the Santa Clarita Valley around 1914. Such movie legends as Harry Carey, William S. Hart, and Tom Mix all made movies in our community. Hello, my name is Philip Scorza, and I'd like to welcome you to our program, Points of Interest. I'm standing in front of the Harry Carey Ranch up here in San Francisquito Canyon. The ranch has just recently been saved from the Wreckers Ball through a joint effort by the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society and the William S. Hart High School District. Today we're going to talk about movie making in the Santa Clarita Valley, and the gentleman who's going to join me is Mr. Marc Wanamaker. Marc, come on in here, say hi.
To meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
It's wonderful being here at the Harry Carey Ranch.
I know you've been up here before because about 3 years ago the Historical Society had a symposium, and you did the part that was movie making in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Yes.
And we held it right here on the ranch. Remember that?
Yes, and it was a wonderful event because it brought awareness to all the people living in this area that Santa Clarita had been a movie sort of location for many years,
Yes.
and also was, I would say, desirable by some Hollywood stars that wanted to come not only make films here, but live here also.
Right.
And
right.
besides William S. Hart, which many people understand.
Well, that's it. Most people realize William S. Hart, of course, because you have the Hart Park and that, but one of the first movie makers was a fellow named Harry Carey. And we're standing in front of his ranch now, and so
Yes,
I thought it was a great thing that we could come up here and visit. Tell us a little bit about Harry Carey. When did he start making movies?
Harry Carey was a stage actor from New York. He was a New Yorker, not a Western star by any means. He was doing all kinds of plays in New York City, including Shakespeare, like many did.
Right.
And very early, we're talking in the 19th century,
He was
by
a
the way.
touring actor, a contemporary of William S. Hart.
Yes, he was,
Yeah.
and he knew William S. Hart, and they all knew each other, and they didn't do a play together, but that doesn't mean that they didn't know each other, of course, particularly in New York.
Right.
And Harry Carey really started early in the film industry. As we all know, William S. Hart started pretty late in the industry,
Right.
in the mid-teens. Harry Carey started really in the early days. He started around 1907.
Oh, really?
1908,
Oh,
around this
okay.
period, in films,
Uh-huh.
with the Biograph Company in New York.
Ah.
And they were not doing westerns, they were doing all kinds of dramas and mysteries and all these kind of films.
What brought him out to the West Coast then?
Well,
Just,
that was the interesting thing is that like many of these actors, he would of course be asked to do a western. So when he came out to do a western, he immediately fell in love with the West and with western lore and all, and decided he wanted to do more. And it was in 1916 that the Universal Film Company really offered him a chance to just do westerns and nothing but westerns.
Okay.
And they actually named the unit the Harry Carey Unit.
So he had his own directors and writers
Yes.
and cameramen. They all worked together like a family, like they do today on many television programs.
Just like a television
Right.
program, they would do them once a week.
Okay.
Right, just like a TV show.
And were they up here then? I mean, what brought him actually into this area and to buy this ranch?
They used at Universal for a year all of Universal area. And if you know anything about Universal City in 1916, it was as wild as this was.
Which is pretty hard to imagine.
And of course, they did have the river there, the Los Angeles River. They had trees, they had hills, they had scrub brush. It was desert. I mean, it was a similar thing.
They had what they needed.
They had what they needed, and they worked there for quite a while. But of course, they did go out on location further out, and they had come to Santa Clarita. And there was, of course, this opportunity to love the area where he went.
Right.
And so when he came out here, after they made a film or two here, he thought this would be a nice place to buy a ranch. It's very isolated, but not too far away. And the roads did come here. They were dirt roads, but they still came here.
Yeah.
So,
I imagine it took them a while to get up here from Universal.
It took a while.
Sure.
It took a while, but that was the idea. The idea was to have a remote ranch. And the view that we see from here, there were no houses here. There was nothing here.
Nothing.
And it was really the best thing. And of course, this ranch was already built here. It was an Adobe ranch.
So somebody already had a ranch. Now,
yes.
was this ranch house that is behind us, did he build this, or was this here?
He built parts of what, he enlarged, I might say, parts of what were here already.
And it is Adobe, as is the fence there.
Which is an amazing thing. Almost all the buildings here, including this wall and all this, are Adobe, and which is quite old, and went back to probably the early 19th century, mid-19th century, should say.
I should say that we're up in San Francisquito Canyon, which, as many of you know the local history, St. Francis Dam was upriver of us at this point here. And when he was here, there was absolutely nothing out here. This was an absolutely open space, and so obviously was ideal for making movies, wasn't
Exactly, and as you can see where the ranch is, it has a view of this whole beautiful river basin here in the canyon. I mean, it was a great place, and of course he fell in love with this immediately.
Now, this was not just a show place. This was a working ranch.
This was a working ranch, and this is why he wanted to be out here. He wanted to live on a working ranch to get a bit of the Western life. Remember, he was from New York.
Right. That's true.
You can
Some
imagine.
of our best cowboys come from New York.
And even New York in 1910, 1915, 1920 was a built-up city.
Oh, yes, big city, absolutely.
And he lived in an apartment.
Right. So he was out here, and his wife was Olive Golden.
Yes, Olive Golden was a stage actress.
Carey.
Yes.
And did they make movies together?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And she was in some of his films in his unit.
Tell me about the first movie that, well, maybe it's not the first movie he made, but a famous director made a first movie, and it was shot here up on this property.
In 1917, when he took over the property and was wanting to live here, it was just natural, of course, that he would utilize it in some of his films.
Sure, why not?
One of the films that they were going to do was a script called Straight Shooting. And there was a young assistant director to a friend of his who was a director, Francis Ford, who later became a character actor in later years in John Ford films. John Ford films.
John Ford films, right.
This young
John Ford was the younger brother.
Exactly.
Yes.
And he was the assistant director, and it was Harry Carey that suggested and pushed through Universal to hire him, John Ford, as a director to do his first feature film.
Oh.
And this was it. Straight Shooting was John Ford's first feature film.
Shot right here in the Harry Carey Ranch. It was John Ford's first.
They utilized these buildings. They utilized the area around here.
I'm just curious. Have you seen the movie?
Yes, it does exist. And we have some stills, which you'll see.
Okay, we'll be sharing a lot of photos today.
Which you will see some of these stills of Harry Carey here on the ranch. And this is the same ranch where Harry Carey Jr. was born.
Right. Who's still alive. He lives in Durango, Colorado.
That's right.
Occasionally our Historical Society has some correspondence with him.
And Harry Carey Jr. was in many of the John Ford films,
oh, yes,
of course.
Yes.
You have to understand that people like John Wayne, Harry Carey Jr., all of these people grew up around Harry Carey Sr. and Olive, and they acted as a family for many of the people that were not direct family. Like Harry Carey Jr. was, yes, the son of Harry Carey. But John Wayne, you have to understand, was a surrogate son, and
he's very close to Harry Carey and his wife Olive.
Definitely, and for many years, really was very, very close to the point. And when after Harry Carey's death, in John Wayne pictures, John Wayne would hold his arm like this.
In tribute to Harry Carey.
Particularly featured in the film The Searchers.
Right.
In the end of the film. And that is Olive Carey. is the woman in the
plays
Searchers.
She plays the older woman.
Yes,
in the Searchers,
and
right.
and when John Wayne goes out that door and stands, he turns around and does this to Olive. It's in love, really, to Olive. It's sort of a respectful remembrance to Harry Carey.
Right.
So all of this emanated from this ranch.
From this place here. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So John Wayne had a great love for this ranch and a great love for them. So there's a tradition in history relating to Santa Clarita, this ranch, John Wayne, and many John Ford films that go on through the years. So it's all interlinked.
Right. Okay. Tell me a little bit about the magazine article that you discovered. Where did
Yes.
you discover this article?
Well, after Harry Carey, of course, became famous doing westerns, other than other kinds of roles, and especially from this ranch, there was great interest among the fan magazines and other newspapers about what was going on out here. And in one particular magazine that came out was, I believe it was Photoplay or one of those types.
They had those even back then.
Yes. Oh, yeah, very much so. And around 1920, they came out here, and a woman reporter actually came out.
Wow.
And I wonder what kind of clothing she wore, because it was rough to get out here in 1920.
Could you imagine coming out to this no man's land here,
Yes,
too?
it was. And she talked about it. They took some pictures of Harry Carey, sitting above the ranch, looking down on it.
Okay, on one of these hills around us.
Yes,
probably.
and she actually did this quote. She said a quote in there. She wrote that to get a good view of the whole ranch, one would have to climb up to the highest hill and then look down and see all the whole landscape,
Right,
which she did do. She did do. So they did climb up there. Whether or not she did or not, I have a feeling she wrote that she did climb, but who knows?
Now these are the photos with the sheep. Harry with the sheep and.
Well, no, these are other photos. These these photos, the photos with the sheep and all that. Those were taken around 1923, I believe.
Okay.
And it shows Harry Carey Jr. as a baby.
Oh, that's the one where Olive's holding him in her arms.
Yes.
And, yes.
Because Harry Carey Jr. was born in this house.
Oh, wow.
Which is quite interesting. And, of course, the sheep shots were taken by a photographer by the name of Froelich, who was a Hollywood photographer at the time.
I've seen the name, yeah.
But he did not take pictures particularly for studios. He took pictures particularly for stars.
Ah,
see? So I believe that, we don't know for a fact, but I believe that he was hired by Harry to come out, take pictures of his beloved ranch, shots of the baby, the whole works, and do this whole number.
Well, you told me a story. When you showed that photo to Harry Carey Jr., what did he say?
Oh, well, once he saw these photos of him inside the house on his mother's lap when he was just an infant, mind you. I mean, he didn't have these.
Oh, he didn't have them
No,
in his
he
own
didn't
collection.
have them in his own collection.
Okay.
He was absolutely floored when I found these in New York City, by the way, in a collection of miscellaneous movie stuff, and the original negatives, actually.
Really?
8x10 negatives.
Wow.
Of the whole ranch, showing him the whole works. It was a great, great find.
Right.
But one would have to know what they were looking at.
Or,
you can imagine.
looking for,
Or
too,
looking
because
for.
when you're in a store and you're looking for particular things.
Exactly. Now, I've been doing this for many years, and I make it my point to know what are famous locations and not so famous. And it doesn't matter, because it turns out this a house like this, a ranch like this, unidentified, but I recognized Harry Carey and Harry Carey and Olive Carey in the photos, so it was just logical and, of course, a great find to find the ranch.
Sure.
That's like a icing on the cake.
Put it all together, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay, so Harry Carey, he had his own company. He was up here making movies 1917, 1918, 1919, into the early 20s.
Yes.
The silent film, of course.
Yes.
Westerns, we presume he was making westerns. How long did they own this ranch? How long I mean, I know his career soared towards the end in the late 40s. He was still acting.
Yes.
But he was taking character roles then in John Wayne, John Ford movies. So he wasn't the leading man at that point.
No, but unfortunately, he did die in the 1940s. And he never made it into the 1950s. He would have gone on. There's no question he would have played old man roles, etc. And he would have been the...
Well, his wife did.
Yes, his wife continued on. She's in The Searchers, for example, which was made in the 50s.
And wasn't she in a television series too?
She was in other shows. She was on television. She did many things. She continued on. Harry Carey would have done the same. There's no question.
And she was living, I'm presuming she was living in the ranch
Yes.
up until she probably passed away or something.
No, she was living on the ranch until into the 50s. 50s.
Okay.
And they were forced to sell the ranch and get rid of it because she couldn't live out here alone any longer. It still was isolated even time in the 50s.
That's true. Yes.
And of course it was sold to a major personality, of course, who we know.
Who we know. Right.
And the ranch continued on being maintained, etc., and to this day. I mean, pretty much. But no, the Harry Carey, I would say, legacy of this ranch ended in the 50s.
In the 50s, okay.
Yeah, early 50s.
Right. And Harry Carey Jr. grew up here. He was raised on this.
Yes,
property.
he grew up, but then again, Harry, as a young man, started out as in an acting career himself.
Sure.
And
He was in all those John Ford, John Wayne movies. Young Harry Carey.
But Olive Carey did later, after in the 60s and 70s into the 80s, lived on.
I didn't know she lived into the 1980s.
Yes, she did, and she lived out in the San Fernando Valley, and then she died not too, well, in my sense, not too long ago, because I did meet her in her apartment. She lived in an apartment in old age, of course.
Right.
And Harry was a devoted son to her to the very end. They were
Is
very
Harry Carey
close.
Jr. the only child that they had?
Yes, he was the only child, and he was still very close, and the family is still around.
Right. Well, we've got some more stops along the way in our early movie making in the Santa Clarita Valley. Do you think maybe we should hit the road?
Yes, we should. Well, let's take a look around a little bit at at a couple buildings here, and then we'll move on.
Let's move on then. Okay. Okay, we're standing in front of the Pardee House, which used to sit on the intersection of Market Street and Newhall Avenue, and of course that was where Tom Mix made some of his early movies, right on that intersection, right? Tell us a little bit about Tom Mix.
Well, first of all, you have to understand that in 1916 to say 1920, when Tom Mix was around here, that Market Street around that area, there was like nothing there, except a couple of these old houses which were built in the 19th century.
Right.
And when they built their sets, they built some sets and made little western towns and little villages out of these existing houses around them to make some sort of like town, which there wasn't.
Right.
So many people used to call that would be like a Mixville.
Because of Tom Mix.
Because of Tom Mix. But there were two real Mixvilles, really one real Mixville. And that was in the Silver Lake area of downtown, near North downtown Los Angeles, in which there was a ranch there, which was actually called Mixville. He even had a sign there that said Mixville.
Oh, okay.
And that's where he made most of his films. But when they came out on location, they did have to have another town, another kind of... Remember, they can't use the same town for every different town.
They wanted a different look, in other words.
Different look. They came out here, and he liked it here, and they filmed right around these foothills. They would build their little Mixville there, and of course use existing buildings, which are still existing around the Newhall area.
In the community. Well, I'm told that Tom Mix used the Pardee House as a dressing room, a headquarters, an office while he was up there filming.
I'm sure, because instead of putting up a tent, which sometimes they would have to do, if there was an existing building like this, it would be natural to use this building as your headquarters, green room, dressing room, script room, and whatever, and actually use it in the film too. Why not? So Tom Mix does have a little history here. You have to understand again that it was William S. Hart that settled here. William S. Hart also came here in the same manner. He would build little sets here, use the terrain, but William S. Hart, like Harry Carey, decided to stay in Santa Clarita. Tom Mix did not stay.
He just used the temp. But he made one of his most famous movies here in our area over at Beale's Cut. Yeah, tell us about that, because you've got some wonderful photos to share with us.
Yes, well, I mean, he made several movies here, of course, and one of them, both of them, involved the use of Beale's Cut. We'll talk about Tom Mix mostly because he really made, I would say, we'll call it Beale's Cut for now, Beale's Cut famous with doing some very famous stunts, in which there was one particular stunt in which supposedly Tom Mix and Tony, his horse, would jump over the cut.
Over the top of the cut.
But actually it was Richard Talmadge that actually did the jump on his horse Ranger. That'll be
Now,
very.
was Richard Talmadge a stuntman? Is that what?
Yes,
he was?
Richard Talmadge was a stuntman turned movie star.
Okay.
But his films were known as stunt films.
Oh, okay.
Say, Richard
okay.
and Richard Talmadge also did everything from horse stunts to climbing buildings to railroads, automobiles.
Right.
He did everything you
Right.
can imagine. Richard Talmadge was one of the great stuntmen. Of course, did stunts for people like Tom Mix and others.
Right.
Now, it's true that Tom Mix did do a lot of his own stunts. It's true. There's no question.
Did they actually jump a horse over the top of Beale's
Yes,
cut,
they
do you
did,
think?
but they would not allow Tom Mix to do such a stunt. It's you don't do that. I mean, Tom Mix is not trying to prove something to the world in which he's going to risk his life and his career and all the fans.
But somebody,
with this.
somebody actually jumped it on horseback.
Yes, and that would be Richard Talmadge.
Okay.
Now, for the other films that Tom Mix did, he did things like swing across himself
Swing across Beale's
on
cut.
a rope
Right.
and on a special contraption and all this to do stunts, jumping, roping, jumping over things. His horse, he would do small jumps, of course, over obstacles, but something like this, of course, is very dangerous.
Right. Yeah. As long as we're talking about Beale's cut now,
Yes.
did Hart use Beale's cut at all for any of his filming? Do you know?
We don't have any photographs of this, but I am positive that Hart would have used Beale's cut. I don't mean jumping over it,
No.
but used it
Use
for
the
some
area.
sort of
Yeah.
area because it was very dramatic looking.
Right,
This cut,
right.
and it would be a good place to shoot things, and I'm sure it was. I haven't seen a film yet in it, if I remember correctly. But I'm sure that he did.
Is there any of this footage left where anybody's actually jumping over Beale's cut?
Some of the footage does
Film
exist.
footage does exist,
Yes, it
okay,
does exist,
okay.
and some of the Tom Mix films do exist. And
What do you say we move on to the next place
Let's
now?
go.
Okay. All right, well, here we are in front of the William S. Hart. This was his house originally when he was building the mansion on top of the hill. And did he use this area for making his films, too?
yes, well, just like as I said before, Tom Mix and William S. Hart had actually built little towns, little mini, like a breakaway town,
Right.
you know, for sets.
Right.
And this was the area in which William S. Hart built his little town for his preamble, you might say, to his famous film Tumbleweeds.
Ah.
And they had the little town here in these foothills here. This was an original ranch house that was part of this ranch that he had purchased.
Right.
And we're talking about 1925 already here.
Okay.
And the house wasn't really started until around that time, and then finished in 1928. So it took several years, you know,
build
over
the,
this process.
right.
I mean, it wouldn't take normally several years, but Hart took several years to do it.
But he was up here making movies probably before
Yes,
he bought
was.
the ranch, wasn't he?
Yes, he lived in West Hollywood. His house is now part of a West Hollywood historical landmark.
Okay.
And it's still there. It's all been restored, being used now as a little theater.
Oh.
And it's called William S. Hart Park.
Oh.
It's in West Hollywood, right off of Sunset Strip on Sunset Boulevard. Eventually, after, I would say, by 1925, when he started to build out here, he started to live here more often. Eventually gave that house to the city of Los Angeles, and then in turn the city of Los Angeles gave that house in West Hollywood to the new city of West Hollywood.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Then he came out here and of course worked here and lived in this house here. Finally, when the big house was finished, he moved in 1928.
Top of the hill there.
Yes.
Sure.
So yes, he did film around here. Tom Mix was here. They all knew each other. It was all one big happy family, more or less, of all of these Western stars turned actors.
And of course, there was a famous studio that had been started in Placerita Canyon about that same time. Tell us a little bit. What was it? Was it first the Monogram Studio?
Well, actually, in 1923, Trem Carr is the name of a man who was a producer who was producing Western films in Hollywood, and he purchased the ranch over there, and I would say that he started to live there also like Harry Carey, but then of course he was using it for films.
Right.
And during this time when he was making the films there, the man that owned the ranch, his name escapes me at this moment. We'll think of it in a minute. He, of course, brought in buildings and all kinds of Western lore there.
Authentic
buildings
from
and
the
things,
West,
and also like wagons and stagecoaches, other things. And they made this Trem Carr Ranch out of this ranch called the Trem Carr Ranch. Trem Carr later became a founder of the famous studio, as you said, Monogram.
Monogram, right.
So over a period of time, you can imagine, you see, he transferred the property to the company's hands,
Okay.
and later it became known as the Monogram Ranch.
Okay.
We're talking in the late 20s.
Right.
Very late, like
Very late
1929.
Okay.
But during the whole 30s, of course, and into the 40s, we have the famous Monogram Ranch. That's 20 years. And of course, the town was added to, a western town, of course.
We have a lot of photos. That's where John Wayne made all of those
Yes.
Sandy movies and Randy movies.
For Lone Star, that's
For
his Lone Star Productions, which was a
Okay.
monogram company.
Okay.
And of course, they expanded this western town into a Spanish village of adobes and like mission-style buildings. It's like a Mexican village.
Right,
So
right.
they would have that. They brought in an old train. Not the whole train, but like the locomotive and a couple
Right,
cars.
right.
I mean, they made this into a working movie ranch.
Right. Right.
And Monogram Ranch was famous, and many other companies used Monogram Ranch because they needed a different village, different town.
Right.
And we'd have Republic was there, and we have Paramount actually used it, Universal, everybody used the Monogram Ranch, and all the independents used it.
Okay.
It's now today the Velouzé Ranch
Oh.
and Studio Ranch.
Melody Ranch. Then.
And later known as Melody Ranch.
Ah.
Now Melody Ranch, now which they have renamed,
Right.
was
Right.
taken over by Gene Autry.
Right.
And that
was in the early 50s.
well, that was 1952 to be
Okay,
exact.
okay.
And
So
Gene
it was owned
Autry.
by Monogram up until he bought it
Yes,
then,
yes,
basically.
and of
Oh.
course he knew about Monogram Ranch and knew everybody because of Republic connection.
And he made all his movies there, a lot of his movies.
Many
there anyway.
movies, so
Sure.
it was all a very strong connection. It was very logical.
Now, so we have Gene Autry there. Obviously, Roy Rogers. He worked for Republic. He made
Yes,
his
he did.
movies there. Hopalong Cassidy, William Boyd. He made
Yes,
his movies.
everybody had used the ranch one time or another. That
all
western
of those great
town.
Western movies that.
Yes,
we
to
no
many,
longer
many
look at.
years, into all the way.
Right.
Melody Ranch lasted until '62. Unfortunately, a major fire roared through there and burnt the whole ranch down, except for some of the buildings. But the western town, which was all wood, that burned first.
Fortunately, it's been restored now. We have it back again. It's,
Yes, the
it's-
Velouzé family
Right.
took it over. They restored, they got old photographs, etc., and tried to restore this western town the way it used to look. So thank goodness, and now we're working ranch again.
Working ranch again, but a big part of our Santa Clarita history was the Monogram Ranch later.
Yes,
the
well,
Melody
this
Ranch.
this Monogram Ranch was built, of course, on this Rancho Placeritas Rancho, which, of course, extended on the east side of the freeway, the 14,
Okay.
all the way into the valley there, and
Okay.
Bokeh Canyon, that whole area. And, of course, that's where the Disney Ranch is.
Right.
Not too far away from where the Monogram
Where
Ranch
near
is.
Placerita County State Park is.
Exactly.
The Golden Dream and all
The
that.
Golka, the Golden
So
Dream
we
right
have,
by
we have
it.
the two working ranches today. We have the Disney one and we have the Melody Ranch.
That's
still,
right.
And that's all part of our rich movie making culture and
That's
history
right.
here.
And
Wow,
continues
goes back
on.
a long ways, doesn't it? It continues on. That's
Continues
great.
on, which is wonderful
That's great.
cultural heritage for this area.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I want to thank you for coming out today. It wasn't quite the weather we were expecting, but it's turned out to be a lovely day, and we've managed to save the Harry Carey Ranch. We have a Hart Park here.
Yes.
We've still got two working ranches
Yes.
in our community. Movies are still being made here, which is
That's
great.
right. And the Walk of
great.
Fame, of course, the Little Walk of Fame,
The Walk
Newhall.
of Fame. Right. Again, it just speaks of our Western movie making heritage, which is really great. Thanks for sharing your photos
Thank
with
you.
us. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I'd like to thank our camera operator, Casey Scorza, and also Tom Frew. And until next time, this is Philip Scorza for Points of Interest.
killed him. Oh, man. I'll see you back.
Compound A, 46.7% by weight. Compound B.
Once you post your image online, you can't take it back. Anyone can see it. Family, friends, anyone. Remember, think before you post.